you haven't seen the synopsis for Sinners or the trailer for Sinners, it's a brand new take on horror, but it's also very culturally rich at the same time, and it's just a mixture. It's almost like 3 movies in one. There's a lot of things that sort of happen.
For me, he told me the film was a horror film before. I said, "What is it?" And I don't think it's a horror film. No. I don't know exactly what the word is, but it's a he invented a new genre.
Yeah, that's a different genre.
You feel me?
That's a different genre. I'm with you when you're right.
It's a new genre.
It gives me the same feeling I got the first time I saw Get Out, where I'm like, it's a horror film, but like
it's the
there's so much happening.
Experience. Like that's it.
Like it's a whole experience.
Nah, that shit is fire, man. He I just love to see him work.
Yeah.
And going back to our history, Black history, like our story is so strong and deep rooted that a lot of it is horror at the end of the day, right? So to be able to artistically like put that into story, to filmmaking, to be able to still keep the essence of what we built and our ancestors and the spirit
built this country.
You know what I mean? Like the spirit of our ancestors, spirit of the land.
Can't see in the morning, can't see at night. And this guy, they put it back in, but to take Jackie Robinson and just delete the stuff that he was in.
Oh, in
the army?
In the White House Congressional Library or something like that. Erases whole military history, which is American history. You would want to show that
it's
off.
American history. So to that point is why a lot of experience we've had and our ancestors have had are very horrific.
Yeah.
It's to the point where it stays in your mind. It stays in your soul.
We have it in us. We have it
in us.
We have
right?
it in us.
So it's like until you're able to face that, you ain't gonna understand that. And we wonder why we stressed out. We wonder why we always, we upset or we having bad days.
Yeah.
You know what? Trauma.
Like,
trauma. Yeah.
And that's really all it is. And I think him exposing that Black trauma, whereas a lot of people wouldn't want to touch that.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people could do it that way.
Nah,
you know what I mean? Like creatively, I don't think a lot of people could tell that story like that.
Without giving too much of the movie away, there's like this underline, like there's sort of like an underlying knowledge that you want your audience to sort of come in with. And they do a good job of still setting that up.
The baseline.
And then when it gets to the horror part, it just flips all that on its ear. And it's just like, oh.
We deal with demons.
We do.
We deal with demons, other people's demons. We deal with our own demons, like sinners, dog. Like, you know what I mean? When you really break that down, like, it's powerful.
Dog, I love it. And even on top of that,
to possession. Ryan Coogler is about to elaborate on how blues music and African ancestry helped inspire him to create this movie, and how all of this ties into one oddly profound person in the past that made a deal with the devil. Let's check it out.
Music, because Ryan, come on, like that scene where, you can just see the flow between the blues and all the different kinds of music. Why was it important for you to reflect that even as we wrap up this interview?
That's a great question. Through the supernatural element of the movie, the movie had to be shown like with this framing of the concept of eternity. That's a concept that vampires are associated with, but it's also a concept that it's very unnatural for one group of people to dominate another group of people, right? But a part of the pattern when you see that and you study that is the attempt to break those people off from the context of what's happened before and what's coming after, to break the language, to break any ancestral theology, to break the ritual practices. And that was happening in 1932 with these specific people, at an extremely conscious and effective rate. So the movie had to be in conversation with the practices that break through that. Music, ritual gatherings, food, like all of these things. You see echoes of where these people are actually from, and where they're going. So the film had to have that element, just as much as it had to have all the blood and guts and, and jump scares. It needed that too, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so here is where things are about to get really dark and really sinister. Ryan Coogler is about to elaborate on how blues music helped him get through a time when his uncle passed away, and the eerie situation between the blues music that he listened to and a guy named Robert Johnson who made a deal with the devil. Let's check this out real quick.
But I you know, I had a lot of love for my uncle, man, and he passed away in 2015 when I was doing post production on Creed, and when I got the news that he died, I was in a post-production facility in Los Angeles. I felt so far and disconnected from home that it really kind of broke me, you know. So I never really reckoned with, you know, missing him properly. You know, went back home for the funeral, but I would often find myself putting on those old blues records to remind myself of him, and it would almost be like I was conjuring him. Like if I listened to it long enough and closed my eyes, I could feel him like kind of listening along with me, maybe telling me a story again. You know, so when I got this idea to make this movie, I wanted to dive into like what Mississippi was, what that Delta blues music was, what was it about that region, and when I investigated it, you know, that this time, you know, like the late 20s, early 30s was really like that time when it really took off, you know, the blues as we know it, and a lot of mythology, a lot of spirituality, you know, a lot of the supernatural vibe is right there in the music. Yeah. A lot of these musicians had songs about being haunted by the devil and being chased by their worst nightmares and trying to escape certain things, both natural and supernatural. One of the more famous tales is the tale of Robert Johnson, who went to the crossroads and
Hellbound, right?
Well, he had a song called Hellhounds on My Trail. Yeah, and he had Me and the Devil Blues is a famous one. Yeah. You know, but the legend had it that he went to the crossroads. He wasn't that good of a guitar player. Went to the crossroads one night, and you know, in Western concepts, I said the devil came to him and tuned his guitar for him for the price of his soul, and he came back playing better than anybody had ever heard. As I researched, I learned that it wasn't necessarily the devil, but it was a figure named Papa Legba, you know, who was a African deity, and you know, once I unlocked that, it became fascinating for me, and I learned that this contribution, man, like the Delta Blues, is really like America's greatest contribution to global popular culture, you know, and at that time, in that place, it was very hard to be black and be seen as a human being, you know, and through that affirmation, they gave the world a gift that you know continues to give, and it gives internationally. So with that, I kind of was like, man, I gotta make this movie big, man. That's why we shot it on IMAX cameras. I got the biggest movie stars I could find, you know, the best young talent to play Preacher Boy. Leveraged all my personal relationships that I had amassed over the years, relationships like with Mike, relationship like with my wife, Zenzi Coogler, who's a producer, and Ludwig Göransson, who's our composer. He got his wife into it. You know, we laid it all on the line for the movie to kind of deliver this story in the biggest, boldest way possible, and really like in the most cinematic way possible, because we're trying to get folks in the theaters to watch this, you know?
Like I said earlier in the video, I don't have anything against them particularly. I think that they are actually pretty good people from what we see. But if we are talking about a Christian perspective, I think that we need to understand that there are some things that we want to be a little bit wary about, and we want to kind of have some discernment and judgment against. And I think that it's up to your own personal convictions if you want to watch this movie or not.